Hello and welcome. Thank you for listening. My name is Sarah Baumert. I'm a yoga teacher, Feldenkrais practitioner, and host of the Sarah B. Yoga podcast. The Sarah B. Yoga podcast and my practice, Body Matter, is an interdisciplinary learning space where we explore the many ways that movement can help facilitate body acceptance and awareness, reduce pain and stress, regulate the nervous system, and build strength and ease. My teaching plays with the synthesis of Feldenkrais awareness through movement lessons, traditional yoga asana, creative imagery, breathing exercises, self-massage, and a compassionate mindset to help you feel a greater sense of ease and comfort in yourself. Sarah B. Yoga and Body Matter have a lot of other program offerings. These podcasts are just a taste of my teaching. Each week I teach a range of online classes, including a gentle yoga class, a level 2 class for more advanced students, and Feldenkrais classes with monthly themes, anatomy lessons, and Q&A sessions for more in-depth study. I have 2 new online series offerings for the fall. A Feldenkrais series titled Coming to Your Senses, an exploration of the spaces of the eyes, the mouth, jaw, ears, vocal and breathing apparatus. And my second course, Wakeful Body, the blending of yoga and Feldenkrais on Monday nights. As one student recently described Monday nights, that felt like I just gave myself a massage. So these fall classes will be a continuation of some fan favorite stretching sequences that incorporate bolsters and other props to enhance the poses. There is still plenty of time to join these courses live or via the course recordings. You can find more information about these offerings in the show notes. Okay, on to today's episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello, welcome to episode 52 of the Sarah B. Yoga podcast. I'm Sarah Baumert, your host and teacher. I teach a slow-flowing alignment-based practice. Today's class, Yoga for Trauma, is suitable for anyone, but it has been specifically designed to benefit people who have experienced trauma in their lives. The class portion of this podcast will last about 40 minutes. Before the class starts, I'll be talking with Lisa Danylchuk. We'll be talking about the benefits of a yoga practice for anyone who has experienced trauma in their lives. She will give tips for practicing yoga if you are going through trauma recovery, and she explains how trauma therapy and yoga can work together. If you're returning to the podcast just for the class portion, and you would like to skip ahead to the practice, the class begins around 22 minutes. So I'm here with Lisa Danylchuk. Lisa is a psychotherapist and a trained yoga teacher. She also uses EMDR and biofeedback therapy, which draws on the brain's ability to learn and adapt. Lisa studied trauma and resilience at the Harvard School of Education, and she is passionate about healing on an individual and collective level. Lisa contacted me to collaborate on this podcast, as she has found yoga to be profoundly healing for herself and wanted to share this work with others. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
So current research shows that yoga and mindfulness-based practices can be extremely helpful for trauma and stress. Could you tell us just a little bit about how yoga can help people cope with trauma and extreme stress?
Sure. One of the big things that you hear in yoga classes is practicing being present, right? And in yoga philosophy, we talk about the fluctuations of the mind going to different places at different times or experiences. So trauma, and that's, true for any of us with any amount of everyday stress or experiences in life, negative, positive, neutral, and everything in between. So when someone experiences trauma, it's often something that happens that's overwhelming and too much to process in that moment. So common examples of trauma might be losing a loved one or an act of violence, or, I'm not going to go down the whole list because then it starts to get overwhelming for everyone listening. But we know those are things that it takes a long time to really understand from like a whole psyche level and process. Like you hear people who have lost someone say, I keep wanting to pick up the phone and call them, but I know they're not there, but part of me still thinks they're there. So that's an example with traumatic loss where, it's too big to comprehend all at once. And so, any average person on the mat, fluctuations, your thoughts going this way, your thoughts going that way, and you come back to your breath and you come back to the present. So if something's traumatic, it's just an even bigger pull, right? And that's if it's conscious. And then the other side of it is that with trauma, one of a really sometimes helpful, and sometimes it goes too far, way to cope is to sort of compartmentalize or disconnect from the feelings. So what happens for some people is they'll disconnect and they'll be holding those feelings maybe somewhere in their body, or it's still in their system, it's still in their psyche. And then through a yoga practice, those will start to come up. So I always say, I think yoga can be a huge healing force or experience for people with regards to trauma, but it can also be, if people aren't looking for it, or if they're not expecting that a memory might come up or an intense emotion might come up, if the teacher's not sort of holding that space, or if they're not expecting it, it could be overwhelming again, right? If you get on the mat and you start breathing and you start crying and you're like, what's going on here? So I think yoga can be hugely helpful in recovering from trauma. And I think there are really simple things that yoga teachers and students can know that help to make that process less triggering and more healing, right?
Yeah, that actually makes me think about another question I was wondering about. Well, first of all, maybe what are some of those tips for how to take a yoga class, that idea of transitioning between activity and rest, as well as transitioning before and after class. And I think that even just the knowledge of knowing that something might come up during class can be really helpful for somebody that's practicing with this in mind.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of foundational, is just being aware. So you see this movement of yoga teachers learning about trauma. So for me, I've always been in the mental health world and in the yoga world, and taught yoga in different mental health settings I'm working in, and sort of bringing that into yoga classes in public studios and places. And I think what's happening for a lot of yoga teachers is they'll have an experience themselves or of a student getting really overwhelmed by some kind of traumatic memory or trigger or somatic, body experience. And they'll go, whoa, I got to learn about this. What's going on? Right. So there's this organic sort of, let me learn about psychology and about trauma and about how we process it. And it's great, because I think yoga teachers need to know, and it's so helpful, like you said, just the awareness, just being able, and we talk about this all the time, the awareness that, you collapse the right arch of your foot when you're 17 can help prevent knee surgery when you're 47, right? So it's the awareness that this really is and can be an emotional, spiritual sort of journey. And that when we do step on our mat, there's the possibility that something might arise that is overwhelming. And I think a teacher that's learning trauma-informed yoga or wanting to be really responsive to that, like they know the people in their class, pretty much everyone has experienced some kind of trauma or another. And if you're teaching to a group of combat veterans, or if you're teaching to people who've been sexually assaulted or abused, you're going to use different language, and you're going to be really specific in terms of helping people ideally build that sense of safety. And when things come up, process them as gently as possible, And one of the things I see, people who are really eager for healing will like jump in and like, oh, I got to dig it all up at once. And your body and your psyche are really intelligent. And if they put something off to the side, there's usually a reason for that. And so, it's kind of the novice trauma therapist is like, sit down and tell me everything that happened. And it's like that some people want to do that and they'll do that without you asking. But for many people, that's the initial trauma was too much, too fast. It was too stressful. So you want to build that ability to deal with and respond to stress and deal with and respond to what's happening in the body and help create enough safety so that some of that other stuff can come through without being another experience of overwhelm, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So really taking things slowly.
Yeah.
And practically, when you're actually on the mat, if something comes up, maybe knowing that you can rest, and all yoga teachers are advocates for resting when you need to, and are fine with that. So I think for some people that are new to yoga, they might be intimidated or feel like they have to do everything that the teacher's telling them to do. And I think that's a good thing to remember also. It's just taking rests if you need to.
Yeah, and making choices, if something feels unsafe, to back out of it.
Right.
And to think that, there's all kinds of ways it can come out in a classroom, thinking you have to do what the teacher says, or just, I think one of the things teachers can do is just give people choices about their bodies and about their experience, and in a way that's still holding clear space, right? So, it would feel really uncontained, and it's a different type of therapeutic, but to just like move your body however you want. It's like, whoa, there's no guidance there, right?
Right. So could you think of any specific time that you, maybe a specific client or student you've had that really benefited from yoga?
It's interesting because I have like a sort of a span of stories. I'll start with in private practice. I have clients who practice yoga, and some of them practice in session with me, and some of them just have their practice on their own, sort of a range. But I also have a range of people. Some people, yoga's just like, oh, I feel so good, and my teacher's so sweet and kind and amazing, and I just go there and I feel so much better. So for some people, it's just a resource, and it just relieves stress. And for them, I say, congratulations, go to yoga and get all those benefits. And for some people, on the other end of the spectrum in my private practice, people I've worked with for years who want to do yoga and who ask me about yoga, but aren't quite ready to actually do a physical posture or show up in a class or any of that. So I think oftentimes, again, like I was saying before, with that containment, we'll sort of contain something and put it to the side. And there might be this knowledge, if I start moving my body, that stuff's going to come up, and it's still too overwhelming. So some people are really aware that practicing yoga in response to trauma is going to bring up something, right? So I have this span, and those are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. But for most people, yoga feels pretty good. They feel better after they do some. And there's a little bit of a challenge there too, right? There's a challenge to breathe in a more slow, rhythmic way. There's a challenge to be in their body in a different way. There's a challenge just to focus the mind to kind of still some of the thoughts, or attempt to kind of practice that way. So, it's interesting because I think it can be therapeutic for all those people, but you have to kind of meet people where they are. And the other example I'll give is just in community programs. I've taught in juvenile halls and schools and prisons. And I think similarly there, it might be a group setting, but you still have to meet people where they are. So if you can show up and kind of get a read on what's going to be just enough challenge and just enough movement, just enough rest for the group, maybe give a couple options to other people who are there that aren't really with the group vibe so they can still be a part of it. That's what I found to be the most healing. So for a lot of the like therapeutic trauma-informed yoga classes I've taught, especially the ones that are out in the community, it might be the first time people have ever done yoga. Those are the ones that don't really look like a traditional yoga class as much. They could look very different, and they could be very simple things, or it could be that everyone's doing something a little bit different. So there's really, I think there's a lot of ways to apply yoga, and what I'm really passionate about is learning the theory of trauma and the philosophy of yoga, and then seeing how those can connect for each individual person or group of people, right? Knowing what we know and getting enough information. so that we can tailor it.
Sure. In the class that I'm teaching, I'll be doing, it's a pretty balanced class, really balancing for the nervous system, focusing on breathing. And I think it'll be a class that will be useful for really anybody and any person. But I was wondering, for you, do you feel like there's a difference or what is really important about a trauma-informed class? What should students know before taking the class? Anything particular?
Yeah, I think if students are just rolling up to any class, I think it's really important that they feel comfortable. So if they're taking this class with you, how can you set up your environment so that it's safe and protected and you feel comfortable? And that could be the lighting, or whether or not someone else is walking in, or whether your cell phone's set to buzz or beep or be quiet. Even if there's a TV on or a computer open. I mean, there are ways to, it's nice about yoga, you can kind of practice anywhere, but there are ways to set up your space so that your whole system can relax a little more. And, you're saying you're offering a class that's balancing for the nervous system. Most people in Western culture, there's all sorts of different cultures within America even, right, within the United States, but we tend to be a go, go, go kind of culture where we're doing. And so we tend to be a little bit more amped up. Mm-hmm. For most people, we're living at that sort of amped up, stressful, go, go, go type of nervous system. So if you're in that place where you've been stressed or responding to things all day, going and doing, it can be hard to go straight from that to lying down and doing restorative yoga. So it's really helpful. And I think one of the reasons some of the more active classes are really popular in the US is because we need to be guided into that place. We need to move some of that energy. And, in terms of specific traumas, there's all kinds of ways to sequence a yoga class for a particular person. But in terms of trauma in general, we're looking at imbalances in the nervous system. We're looking at being hyper aroused, so anxious, go, 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 or collapsed, or vacillating between the two, or experiencing both at once, right? Like a freeze response. So when we're looking at all of that, well, what's good for everyone is balancing the nervous system. So what I would say to people who are taking your class is if you're feeling like agitated or you've got a lot of energy in your body, go for a little walk or run around the block and then do this practice. If you're feeling really lethargic and like it's hard to really stand up and maybe one restorative pose or something, do a restorative pose before you start the class, because what you want to do is meet your system where it is and then sort of transition and build that balance. So I think it takes time and definitely awareness to even know, where is my system? Sometimes you think it's one place and then you look at your calendar or you talk to a friend and they're like, man, you've been all over the place. You're like, oh, okay. I thought I was really calm, but maybe not. So I think getting some of that outside perspective and can be helpful, but just getting to know even the somatics, the little body sensations that go with each can help. And a practice like what you're teaching, it's just nourishing, right? It's just nourishing for your nervous system. If it's too slow for someone to tolerate, they could try one of your more vigorous practices. And if it's too fast or it's hard to get enough energy to do it, then they could try a softer practice, like a gentle sequence.
Yeah, I think those are great tips all across the board, all these different things that you mentioned. I think about when I do a practice at home and if my cat is bothering me or if the door isn't closed or the phone rings, it breaks everything. Or also if I really just want to be by myself, I actually tell my husband or anybody else that could be around, I say, I'm going to do this, to really just state to them, I need 1 hour on my own. I think that is important for this kind of practice in particular.
Yeah.
And also I love what you said about, if you really need to get some energy out, like go take a walk or, do a couple push-ups or something like before you start that quiet practice. I think that's really, really smart. So just one last question. if you could speak to a little bit how trauma therapy and the yoga philosophy work together.
Yeah, I think I started to talk about that earlier. I mean, one of the main things is, the second line of the Yoga Sutras is yogas chitta vritti nirodha, which is yoga is the cessation of the turnings of thought, or you define it, the fluctuations of thought. And so one of the things we're really exercising in a yoga practice, not traditional exercise, but mentally exercising, is our mind and its nature to want to figure things out and want to go to the future and plan and want to go to the past and process. And those things aren't bad. I mean, I think a lot of those things are helpful, that we can say, this is what I'm doing tomorrow and this is what happened to me yesterday. But what happens is we get lost in that, so that we're not experiencing what's happening right now. And so in the Yoga Sutras, if you can still that, you're more connected to a deeper sense of self, like you might call it your soul or your spirit, or just a deeper layer of your awareness. And so I think a lot of people feel that layer more towards the end of yoga. You're kind of working through and maybe struggling to breathe in a twist, or noticing your hamstrings feel tight in a forward bend. And then at the end, when you rest after all of it in Shavasana, it's like, something deeper comes. And I think that's where yoga helps people access resilience too, because in terms of trauma, it's almost like the event or the experience can feel like it's bigger than your own sense of strength or your own sense of self. And so this is where people talk a lot about ego in yoga and in spiritual teachings. And in psychology, we also talk about ego strength, right? Like a sense of self, a strong, integrated sense of self. And I think what yoga does is it prepares you for that moment where you have a deeper sense of connection with yourself. And you can't really force this. It's something that just happens over time. And you might do 100 yoga classes and just feel sort of fidgety in Shavasana, and that's fine. But I think anyone who's practiced for any long chunk of time can say, oh yeah, I felt that. I felt something similar to that, or I resonate with the fact that yoga helps me just be more comfortable in my own skin. There's so many reasons that yoga can be helpful with trauma. And like over the years, I just keep learning more and more and more and more. But it really helps us to be present to the moment, to connect to ourselves, and to work through the stuff that's held in the body. And, we could talk for hours just about that aspect too.
Yeah, great. That's so great. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Lisa.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll put on the website, on the podcast posts, will be information about you. Is there anything you want to say lastly about resources, or where people can find more resources regarding your work?
Sure. My website is howwecanheal.com, and there's a lot of stuff on there about yoga and trauma right now. I have a yoga and trauma online training that's 8 weeks long. So for people who really want to teach trauma-informed yoga, or therapists that really want to know more about yoga, it's really geared for those two groups. Oh, there's one more piece I'm adding, hopefully this fall. So I'm adding a section on there just on research on yoga, so that people can at least access, the names of research studies that have happened on yoga and trauma and depression and anxiety. There's more and more all the time.
Yeah.
And one of the things I get in my course a lot are people who are applying for grants, right? And they're trying to really substantiate why yoga for trauma treatment, and to get the theory aligned with the philosophy and all of that. So that's helpful to have. And then the research is really helpful to have. So they can look at howwecanheal.com, and more information. I'm always adding stuff there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for just making yoga accessible and getting it out there for people. I think that's awesome.
Again, thank you so much for joining us, Lisa. Now let's begin the practice. So take this time right now to grab all of your props. Turn off your alarms, turn off your devices, your phone, anything that may disrupt your practice. Really make sure that your space is prepared. If you need to, hit pause. Be sure that your space is fully free of all distractions, so you can begin to focus in on creating a change in your mental and physical space. If you have any questions or comments, please be in touch. I love hearing from each and every one of you. You can find some notes on this podcast at the podcast episode on my website, sarahbyoga.com. And lastly, before we get started, if you're enjoying these podcasts, please consider donating to the cause. Thanks for listening and have a great class. We're going to begin today on our back, so just lying down on the flat surface of your mat on the floor. And let's bend the knees so that the feet stand so that they're about shoulder distance. Start by just letting your arms be relaxed alongside the body with your palms facing up. And if you're comfortable with it, you can close the eyes. Just notice the way that your spine is resting on the floor, noticing the way that you're able to relax your shoulders into the earth. Feeling any space between the spine and the floor. Do you have a little bit of a lift underneath the neck where the neck leaves the floor? And do you have a similar sort of small lift down at your lower back where the lower back arch is? And if you feel a particular part of your body is very tight, just begin to notice this. See if you can relax into it and let that area release its weight into the floor. Even bringing your consciousness to that area will help begin the process of relaxing. So we just take this moment here at the beginning to really listen to ourselves, investing the time to take care of yourself and finding a positive way of managing your stress and uncomfort. So begin to bring a little bit more attention to your breathing, noticing how you're breathing and how the torso is moved by your breath. Seeing if as you breathe in, you can move the air in through the nostrils. And let the torso relax. See if the abdomen can relax a bit so that as you breathe in, you feel an expansion in the ribs and in the abdomen. As you breathe out, there's a sense of dropping or the navel area sinking down towards your back. Just continue with this soft attention to your breath and bring your right knee into your chest, drawing your right knee in. Give it a good squeeze in with both hands. Try to soften right at the hip crease. And keeping the right knee in the hands, lift the left leg straight up towards the ceiling. So straight leg, and you'll flex the feet so the toes pull back towards you. With this left leg very straight, slowly start to lower the left leg down all the way to the floor until the left heel finds your mat. Then see if you could just lengthen that left leg a little bit longer. Reach the left heel maybe an inch farther away from your hips. So you feel a lot of length and energy out through the left leg, the quadriceps engaged, the sole of the foot is starting to open, and your right knee is still hugging into your chest. Take a full breath in, and as you exhale, draw your forehead towards your right knee and draw the knee towards the forehead, just curling the head and the shoulders off of the floor, feeling the spine round. And then inhale, release that down. We'll do that 2 more times. So exhaling, the forehead and the knee come towards one another and you kind of round the spine. And then inhale, head drops down. Last time, exhale, right knee and the forehead draw towards one another, using a little bit of the arms. Exhale, release the head down, release the right knee and plant the right foot to the floor with the right knee bent. And then just slide the left knee up all the way to the chest and take a good grab of the left knee, using both hands to take the knee, hugging it into the chest. As you bring the left knee into the chest, feel the lower back soften and relax into the floor. Let the shoulders be relaxed and the weight of the head is still resting on the earth. And from there, the right leg will reach straight up towards the ceiling. Flex the right foot so that the right toes pull back towards you. And keeping the right leg straight, slowly lowering it down to the floor until the back of the right heel finds the mat. And once the heel finds the mat, try to slide the leg a little bit longer, engaging the muscles of the legs, starting to wake them up, pressing the right thigh bone down towards the floor. And then exhaling, the head and the shoulders will lift, peeling the head and the top of the shoulders away from the floor. Forehead and knee come towards one another. Inhale, release the head back to the earth. Exhale, forehead and knee draw towards one another. Good. Inhale, slowly lowering. Last time, exhale, knee and forehead draw towards one another. The right thigh bone continues to stay rooted. And inhale, lower the head, lower the left foot, and then bending the right knee, bringing the right foot to stand. From there, just slowly roll to your side and come up to your hands and your knees. So from your hands and your knees, you're going to press straight back into child's pose. So the hips will move back towards the heels and the arms lengthen long. Walk your hands forward so that your arms begin to be a little bit more active. Try to keep the weight of your hips back by your heels. The forehead can rest on the floor if that's comfortable. And then you can just start to creep each hand a little bit farther forward so you start to get a stretch through the side body and in the armpits. Bring some attention back to your breathing. And we're going to start to count the breath here so that we have an even inhale and exhale. So inhaling for 4 counts and exhaling for 4 counts. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhaling, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 2, 3, 4. So you can start to count that on your own in your mind, and it might be a little bit slower or faster paced than what I've counted. Whatever is most comfortable for you. And if that counting doesn't feel right, you can just drop it. So the next time that you inhale, you're going to come forward back to your hands and your knees. And then turn the toes under and reach back to downward facing dog. And just breathing here for a few breaths so the hips are lifted. Let's take just a little bend in the knees, just a micro bend in the knees, but the weight of the hips is still moving up and back. Your thigh bones are moving back, and you're pressing the floor away. The palms are fully on the floor. Inner edge of the thumb and the index finger root down. Arms are long. Shoulder blades are spreading wide. Feel the upper arms and the ears right alongside each other. And then as you press the floor away with the hands, really try to lift the weight of the hips up away from the waist and the rib cage so you get this nice long length through the whole spine. Keeping the knees bent as much as you need to really feel that length in the spine. Lengthening the legs long if you feel that the spine can maintain its length and it gives you a little bit more stretch. And we'll breathe in and come forward to a high plank, like the top of a push-up. The shoulders are right over the wrists. The legs stay straight, the heels reach back. Just take a breath in here. And then exhale, lower the knees down and reach back to child's pose. So we're going to move through these poses, a down dog, plank, and child's pose with our breathing. So you can come back to that counting of the breath if you'd like, inhaling for 4 counts, exhaling for 4 counts. So we'll inhale, coming up to the hands and the knees, nice and slowly, very smooth movements. Turn the toes under, exhale, push back to down dog. Inhale, come forward to high plank, shoulders over wrists. Exhale, the knees drop down and the hips move back to child's pose. Breathing in for 4 counts, coming forward to your hands and your knees. Breathing out, the toes turn under and you reach the hips back to down dog. Inhale forward to high plank. Drop the knees down, exhale back, child's pose. Breathing in, coming forward to your hands and your knees. Feel the weight in the hands, turn the toes under, reach the hips back, down dog, exhale. Inhale forward, high plank. Drop the knees, exhale back, child's pose. One last time, breathing in, hands and knees. Turn the toes under, exhale, press the floor away through the arms, downward facing dog. Inhale forward, high plank. Exhale, drop the knees, reaching back with the hips towards child's pose, but keep the torso up. You're going to walk your hands back towards your knees, so your hands are sort of right alongside the knees on the floor, and use that press of the hands into the floor to lift your knees up so you're coming back into a squat. You're taking the weight mostly all the way into the feet. The heels probably won't touch the floor. It's because the Achilles tendons for most of us are too tight there. So just feeling a little stretch through the back of the ankles. And then start to let the head drop. We'll lengthen the legs coming to a forward fold. So the heels drop into the floor, the legs start to straighten, and the torso folds over the legs. Give your head a little shake no. Just kind of releasing any tension in the neck that you can feel there, and then shaking the head yes. A little nod of the head yes. Good. Start to take the weight into the feet and inhale up through a long spine. Reach the arms out and up. Come all the way up to stand. Take the arms overhead. Press the palms together. And just peek up towards the thumbs. And as you exhale, bringing the palms down through your center towards the front of the body. And then just release the arms all the way down. Let's walk up towards the top of the mat. Standing with the feet about the width of the hips. Toes pointed forward. We'll move through a few sun salutations. So the palms are going to spin forward. As you inhale, reach the arms out and up, gazing up towards the thumbs. And as you exhale, dive forward, creasing at the hips, bending over the legs, release the head. As you inhale, lengthen to a long spine. Take the sternum forward, feeling the rib cage lengthen forward and away from the pelvis. Fingertips can stay on the floor. The left foot will step back. So you're in a lunge. The front knee is bent. We're going to drop the back knee down to the floor, untuck the toes. So we're in this low lunge, Anjaneyasana. Really feeling the front heel root into the floor. So option here, you can keep your fingertips on the floor and just rest here, stretching the front of the left leg up into the hip. Or you can start to take the weight out of the hands and bring the arms up overhead, lengthening the arms long, turning the palms so they face one another. Continue to press that front heel into the earth, expanding, open the front of the torso, feeling the ribs, breathing in and out. Good. If the arms are lifted, we're going to take the hands and just place them right back behind the head. So you'll interlace the fingers like a basket right at the back of the head. Let the elbows widen. And feel the weight of the head release back into the hands just a little bit. Gentle opening through the front of the neck. Take one more breath in here. And as you exhale, bring the hands to the floor and we'll step back to downward facing dog. Right, on your breath in, come forward to high plank. And as you breathe out, lower to your front, to the abdomen, drop the knees, come all the way onto the front of the body, untuck the toes, and inhale into a small cobra. So the shoulders and the front of the spine start to peel away from the floor. Good. Exhale, releasing the forehead back down to the floor, and then using the strength of the arms, press the floor away, come up to your hands and your knees, and reach back to downward facing dog. From down dog, you're going to walk your feet together. So the feet stay at the back of the mat, but the feet come together. So the inner edge of the feet touch. Start to shift the weight into the left foot and just reach the right leg up and back, keeping the hips square. Really press that right foot as if there's a wall back behind you that you can press into. Take a full breath in. And then look forward and take a big step forward with the right foot, coming back into that lunge. Instead of dropping the back knee, this time we'll keep the back knee lifted. So your back leg is straight, your front right knee is bent at a 90-degree angle. Just come up to the fingertips and reach the sternum forward. Feel all the length through the body. Great, taking one more full breath in here. And as you exhale, press off the back foot, step forward up to the top of the mat. And inhale all the way up to stand. The arms will reach out and up. Palms come together overhead. And as you exhale, bring the hands down through center. Before we go to the second side, we'll start moving into a balance. Staying with that right leg. So the right foot, you'll start to pour the weight into the right foot. So that the left knee can draw up into the chest. Just take a hold of that left knee and draw it towards you. Keeping your right leg straight. Set your gaze so that your eyes are looking straight ahead out at the horizon. Just finding one point to gaze at. And then see if you can keep your left knee right where it is, but release your hands. So your arms are just going to come right alongside the body. And if that feels okay, start to reach the arms out to the side and up overhead. Good, just feeling yourself standing on one leg, pressing into the floor through the right leg, and feeling a nice length through the spine. Good, then setting your left foot back down. The arms are going to swing out to the side, dive forward, bend at the hips, and fold forward into Uttanasana. Inhale, lengthen into your flat back. And exhale, step your right foot back. So moving on to the second side, release the back knee to the floor. Untuck the toes. You're in a low lunge. Fingertips can be on the floor right next to that front foot. If you'd like to move into a slightly different pose with the arms, you'll start to take the weight out of the hands and sweep the arms up and overhead. Just reaching the arms towards the sky. Feeling the front foot root into the floor. Great. An option to bring your hands right back behind the head. So you interlace the hands so you have a basket back behind the head. And the head can gently rest back into the hands. A little opening for the throat. Good. Slowly exhale, release the hands back to the floor and step back to your downward facing dog. Great. Inhale forward to high plank. And exhale, lower all the way down to the floor. Untuck the toes. Inhale, small cobra. The shoulders lift. The front of the spine peels up off the floor. And you can start to move a little bit deeper into this back bend if you'd like by lengthening the arms slightly, feeling the whole front of the spine begin to open. And exhale, releasing the forehead down. And then using the press of the arms to push yourself back into downward facing dog. Your feet will come together at the back of the mat. And inhale your left leg up and back for a one-legged dog, really pressing out through the left foot. Gaze forward and take that big step forward with the left foot. Keep your back knee lifted this time. So you just come up to the fingertips, feeling that deep bend through the front knee. Take a full breath in. And exhale, press off the back foot, step forward to the top of the mat. Inhale all the way up to stand, sweep the arms out to the side and up overhead, bringing the palms to touch together overhead. And as you exhale, the hands come down through center. Set your gaze out in front of you, out at the horizon. Start to pour the weight into the left foot, drawing the right knee into the chest. Take the right knee with both hands. Really secure it with the hands. As you feel the weight all in the left leg, pressing the floor away, feel the lower abdomen draw back towards the spine. Soften the face. And if you feel ready for it, you can release the hands from the right knee, but keep the knee in that position. Take the arms up, sweeping the arms up overhead. Great. Take a full breath in. And then exhale, setting that right foot down. So we'll do a bit more balancing. So you're going to start to take the weight to the right foot again. Draw that left knee into the chest and just take it with your left hand this time. Now, feeling that your pelvis is facing forward, you're going to start to open the left knee out to the left slightly without taking your whole torso to the left. So you're looking forward, the torso faces forward, and the pelvis stays facing forward. So it's just that left knee that opens. So this could be a place where you stay, or you could come to tree pose where the left foot comes to the inner right thigh or the inner right calf, pressing the right leg and the left foot towards one another, finding that balance, releasing the tailbone towards the floor. Good. And if you're feeling comfortable with the legs, you can take the arms out to the side, just reaching out to the side. Letting the arms reach to the side can be helpful for balance sometimes. You can imagine like somebody on a balance beam and they use a pole and they reach the arms out. So you have this reach out with the arms, helping you to find your balance. Good. Take one more breath in here. And as you exhale, the left foot can come back to the floor. Start to take the weight into that left foot. Draw the right knee up, grabbing the right knee with the right hand. And then without turning the torso, just open the right knee out to the right. This could be where you stay for your balance, or you could take the right foot to the inner right thigh or inner right calf. If you're doing that, you want to press the leg and the foot together towards one another. Really engage the legs towards this midline. And then extend the arms straight out to the side, like you're reaching for the sides of your room. Good. Feeling all of the width across the collarbones. Soften the jaw, the skin of the face. Relaxing the eyes here. Good. Exhale, gently releasing the arms down, set the right foot back down. So taking the feet so that they're hips distance. Breathe in, sweep the arms out and up. And breathing out, fold forward, creasing at the hips. Fold over the legs. Inhale, extend to a flat back. And as you exhale, step both feet back to a high plank. And then release your knees down to the floor. Your inhale will arch the back into a cow spine. So the tail lifts up and your abdomen drops towards the floor, and you can look forward. So you're in sort of an arched back position. As you exhale, round the back, so you curl the tail down, dome the lower belly up, and drop the head. This is cat spine. Your inhale will bring you back into that cow spine, and you're going to hold there. We're going to do a lion's breath. So for lion's breath, as you breathe in, you're going to create tension in the face. So you might close the eyes tightly, maybe close the mouth tightly. And on your exhale, you open the eyes, your eyeballs will look up, open the mouth, and stick your tongue out and make this sound. Then closing the mouth once you've exhaled. Take a breath in through the nose and a breath out through the nose. And we'll try it again. So giving yourself a few chances to try this. So first you kind of tense the face, create some tension in the eyes and the cheeks. And as you're ready, exhale, open the eyes, look up, stick the tongue out, and just breathe out through the mouth. Letting out that tension. Good. Once you're done with that, you'll inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. We'll take 2 more. So breathing in, create a little tension, maybe squeeze the eyes, pucker the lips. And as you exhale, open the eyes, stick the tongue out, nice opening through the mouth. Good. Breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose. Last time, inhale, good squeeze in the face. And then when you exhale, really feel the air coming from the inside, from the belly. Great, very nice. Turn the toes under, reach back to down dog, and just come back to your natural breathing. In and out through the nostrils. Inhale forward into high plank. And exhale, lower all the way down onto your belly. And just extend the arms so that they're right alongside the body with the palms facing towards your legs. The forehead can rest on the floor gently with the neck long. On your breath in, begin to lift the head, lifting the head of the shoulders. And reach the fingertips back for the heels. The arms will be off the floor, but you're just extending the arms back, feeling a nice opening across the front. Good. Exhale, slowly release that down. So again, inhaling, lifting the forehead, lifting the shoulders, reaching the arms back. You could imagine that you're holding a yoga block between the hands and you try to press the hands in towards the yoga block. It's back behind you. So you're pushing the hands slightly in towards a midline or into an imaginary yoga block you're holding. Feel how that engages the triceps, the back of the arms. Take one more breath in and exhale, slowly release down. Great, so we'll come to Sphinx pose. This is a back bend. You'll stay face down, but you're going to walk your forearms to the floor. So your upper arms are going to be vertical. Your elbows are placed directly underneath your shoulders. And then as you look down, your forearms are going to be parallel to you. Parallel to each other. So the forearms are reaching forward, the palms are down, the fingertips are reaching forward, same direction that you're looking. Then you can start to press down with the hands and the forearms and feel the sternum lift. Let the front of the neck start to open, gazing forward, and maybe even lifting your chin and your head slightly so that your eyes start to peel up the wall that you see. Just feeling how this is for your lower back. If it's too much, you can start to walk your elbows forward so it's not as much of a back bend. And if you'd like a little bit more of a back bend, you can start to press the hands into the floor and let your elbows come off the floor gently. Just getting a nice opening across the front of the body. And take one more breath in here. And then exhale, slowly lower that down. Walking your hands back so they're under your shoulders. Push yourself back to your hands and your knees. Walk your hands back towards your knees. Come back to that little squat that we did earlier on. And fold forward. Straighten the legs. And as you inhale, just come all the way up to stand. You're going to turn to the right so that you're facing the long side of your mat. Take your arms straight out to the side. And then just notice how far your wrists are from one another. You're going to walk your feet out to that width so that if there were a string that were dropping down from your wrist, your feet would be that wide. Your feet will be parallel, so the toes are facing forward, and the outside edges of the feet are parallel to those short edges of the mat. And then just release the hands down and bring your hands to the hips. Feeling this stance of the legs wide, broaden across the collarbones. And you could just stay here, standing tall, feeling all of the space from the head to the tail. Or you can start to tip forward, creasing right at the hips, area around where your hands are, and then releasing your hands down to the floor. Allow the head to drop if you are folding forward. Give your head a little nod, yes. And feeling the stretch in the backs of the legs and the outer shins. Making sure that your inner arches of the feet are lifted. And just take a few cooling breaths here, in and out through the nose. If it's very intense for your hamstrings, you can bend the knees slightly. And just see if you can let your arms relax, let the neck relax. Good. Your next breath in, lift up to a long spine. Bring the hands back up to the hips, come all the way up to stand, and then bending the knees, walk one foot in and the other foot in, slowly bringing the feet right underneath you. Great, so we're going to come back onto our back. So lying down on your back, draw both knees into your chest. Just feel the lower back relax into the earth. And then set your right foot onto the floor with your right knee bent. And cross your left thigh over your right thigh, so you don't have any space between the thighs at all. The arms will reach straight out from the shoulder, so they're on the floor with your palms facing up. From here, just let your knees fall to the right, moving your spine into a twist. See if you can let your left shoulder stay grounded. Noticing this twisting action and how it affects your breathing. Keeping a smooth, steady breath in and out. Soften any tension you feel in your face and your neck. Relax the eyes. Just notice the sensations here in this twist. Backing off, making it less of a twist if it's too much. See what it feels like to turn your head to the left. Just rolling the head gently. And then rolling the head back through center, rolling the head to the right. As you roll the head to the right, try to keep the left shoulder grounded. Good. Take one more full breath in here. And then using the strength of the abdominals to bring the knees back to center, uncross the leg. You can lift the hips up and then replace them back down to the floor. Good. Crossing your right thigh over your left so there's no space between the thighs. Just coming to the second side, the knees will drop to the left. Noticing if there's any difference on this side. It's very common that we are looser on one side or tighter on the other. Just noticing. Try to keep the right shoulder very heavy. Relaxing in your face and your eyes. Keeping the breath smooth and steady. And then turning the head, rolling the head to the right without tension, just letting it roll. Slowly rolling the head back through center, rolling the head to the left, and keeping the head to the left as the right shoulder grounds down. Good. When you're ready, exhale the knees back to center, uncross the legs. So the feet will be about hips distance, the heels are pretty close to the sitting bones. And just extend the arms down so they're right alongside the body. Press the feet into the floor and just let your tail lift a few inches. So you curl the tail away from the floor and you feel the lower back lengthen long. And then release the back of the pelvis and the tail back to the floor. Just do that a few times. Just a small lift. Pushing the feet into the floor, lifting the tail. Feel how that can lengthen out your lower back. Bring it back down. Good. Last time. Pressing the feet into the floor. Let the pelvis lift. And lower the pelvis down. Great. Bring the knees back into the chest. Taking the right hand over the right knee. The left hand over the left knee. And then with your hands, just gently spread the knees a little bit apart. Feeling a gentle stretch through the inner thighs. Inhaling, expanding the breath into the whole torso, the rib cage, the abdomen. And drawing your knees back towards one another, taking your feet down, lengthen your legs long. With your legs long, just sort of flop your legs in and out. So inward rotation and outward rotation. So your toes and your legs turn in towards one another and then they turn out away from one another. And just do that a couple times. Let it be kind of floppy. So relaxing any tension you might feel in your legs and your calves or your feet. And then let the legs just totally relax open so the toes are pointing out away from one another. And extend the arms right alongside the body with the palms facing up, giving some space between the arms and the body, maybe about a foot and a half, as long as this is comfortable. If there's any other position you'd prefer to rest in, you can take that. Let the eyes close if that's comfortable. Just taking some breaths here, feeling the weight of your body resting into the support of the floor. Noticing what sensations are present. Do you feel a particular part of the body that was affected by something we did in class? Maybe you feel an overall sense of opening or space somewhere in the body. Seeing if you can scan the body and pick out a few things that you're noticing. Without any sort of judgment that anything is right or wrong, but just feeling so that you start to become more acquainted with these different sensations. And letting your eyes really relax down towards the floor. Letting the cheeks and the mouth relax. And bringing your imagination, your mind's eye, all the way down to the soles of the feet. Feeling this space between the soles of the feet and the very top of the head. The space, the height that you take up, this length that you can feel. Noticing how tall you perceive yourself as being. And seeing if you can feel everything in between, from the soles of the feet all the way up to the top of the head. And just letting the weight of the shoulders drop down. Good, very nice. Keeping your head very heavy without picking the head up. Just roll your head very slowly, side to side. And then begin to wiggle the fingers and the toes through space. Taking a few deeper breaths in and out. And when you're ready, you'll bend your knees, bringing the feet to the floor. And just roll yourself onto your side, curling on your side. And from your side, press yourself up with your hands up to a comfortable seat. Just coming to a cross-legged position. Keeping the spine long. From here, take the palms together. Taking a moment of gratitude for taking this time for yourself. A moment to care for yourself. And may you be free of inner and outer harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. And may you care for yourself joyfully. Take a breath in. And exhale. Namaste.
Are you enjoying this podcast? I've chosen to offer these audio recordings freely for over 15 years. I do this because research shows yoga, yoga nidra, and Feldenkrais to be valuable practices, those which I would like to share widely. Dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, has always been a pillar of my business. And more generally, dana is the inclination to give without expecting any form of repayment. It does, however, take a fair amount of time, effort, and cost to maintain and keep the podcasts available. If you feel you've benefited from what you've learned from these classes, then please do consider making a contribution towards the maintenance and upkeep of the classes. It will help ensure that I can continue to offer the podcast classes freely and keep generating new material. Give what you can, give what feels good. If it's too little, it won't feel good. If it's too much, it won't feel good. Links to support the show monetarily can be found in the show notes. And other ways to give include sharing the podcast with others, leaving a 5-star rating and review, or just sending me an email with how the classes have affected you. Thanks so much.